You're an advertising litigating firm, which is not common, right? Most of the pre-lit and the settlement firms, they're the volume, like they can handle volume because they're not going to trial, right? It's just on the assembly line. So, you know, like there's just so much complexity to advertising on TV and digital and everything you're doing on billboards. Like, what is the model look? It's this more higher case selection criteria.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Well, I think it's changed a lot, and now that these insurance companies are, going to the mattresses, a phrase out of The Godfather, where to go
Right.
to war. I think, you've got to be able to have people. And first of all, I can tell you this, and I trust me, they can push a button at these insurance companies on their computer and they can tell you everything about a lawyer. Does this guy file suit? Does he try cases? More importantly, does he win cases? And you know what? If you don't meet these criteria, they're going to sit there and offer you garbage. And they're going to know who you are. And after a while, you're going to have a track record of sitting there settling, 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 settling. And they're going to know that you're a settler. And for instance, I was talking to an adjuster that worked for one of the major insurance companies the other day, and he told me, I was asking him about one of my competitors. He's down in Southern Colorado, and this guy had been working down there for 6 years for a major insurance company. And I said, "Well, how many cases does so and so file?" I said, "In the 6 years you've been working down there." He goes, "Zero." I go, "Zero cases?" He goes, "Yeah, they sit here and call up and threaten us 14 times, but we know they're never going to file suit. So we just laugh and stick with our offer. And eventually they end up taking it and forcing some crappy settlement down some client's throat that doesn't know better." And that's what each and every one of these guys pretty much does when it comes down to doing this work. And they haven't caught on is that litigate, for instance, there's one insurance company that we found out they had put 250 of our cases with the same two adjusters. And these adjusters would just stick to the meds. And once we filed suit, my guys got around to it. They'd sit there and pay us. They'd send it to another adjuster. And I said, "Well, you're sitting there running my guys through the ring. They wouldn't give us the policy limits. So I just took 150 cases one week and filed them all. Caused a meltdown at this insurance company. I mean, a virtual meltdown. They were paying us on cases where there was $5,000 in meds and paying us the policy limits of 100,000. I mean, they couldn't handle it. And they started paying us. I mean, we got paid on cases we never should have gotten paid on. Stop, Frank. Let's sit here and talk about this. I said, "Well, you got to stop doing this stuff." I said, if you want us to file suit, we're going to go in there. And some of these cases, by the way, are going to get tried and you're going to have excess liability. I got $4 or $5 million cases. I said, "I'm going to pull the rug out on you." I said, "You got 30 days to pay it. You don't." I said, "That's going to be your problem. You go explain to your insured how you have this program of not paying plaintiffs' attorneys until they file suit. Go explain it to your insured."
Yeah, and that's how you get the big cases, and that's how you get the value and also that's also the margins, right? When you're commoditized, you're not there's no profit
Yeah.
margins to take, right? Because there's no value there.
Well, I always like to tell this story. I had this kid that was working for me. This is, 15, 20 years ago. And I mean, he was a really bright guy, very bright. He had worked as an insurance adjuster before he came to work for us. And then he went to law school. And then after he passed the bar, he came to work for us. And I mean, this guy knew more about how to push the buttons on an insurance company than anybody had ever met. I mean, he was smart and he knew how insurance companies worked. And, you know, he he decided one of his friends, inherited a lot of money, a lot, and they decided they were going to go out and be Frank Azar. Okay, fine. I have all the competitors I want. Great, it's good for business. And he went out there and they advertised, and they spent a lot of money in advertising. And the problem is a couple things happened. Number one is he got, didn't really get a lot of cases, but he got a really big case, a big one, where the guy was, is a multi-million dollar case. And they wouldn't settle it with him. He went to mediate, and it was something to me that obviously they should have settled it. They had a really serious liability on it, and the damages were huge. So he says, they won't settle. You come in here and help me and litigate this case. And I showed up at the mediation, and they turned around and settled it with it. And I went to the mediator and I said, how come they wouldn't settle with this kid? It's no different than when I came in later. He says, Frank, he says they don't know, they know this kid doesn't have the money to put into this case. It's going to cost a lot of money. And two, he's never tried a case this big. And he doesn't have they wouldn't even make it an offer. So that's what happens is, you don't have, the cred, credibility, as I call it with these guys. They know it. And if you think that they think you're some great trial lawyer and they're going to pay, you're not going to get the maximum dollars on these cases. And even if you sit here and file suit, you got to be able to try them and win.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys have incredible verdicts, incredible results.
Yeah, we've got the best results, I think, of anybody in this state. And it's just people don't understand it. And that's why I sit there. When these guys sit there and hire a lawyer off the internet, there's no track record. How many cases has the guy tried? How many cases has he filed? And you'll find out most of these guys have never even tried a case.
Let me ask you this. So, a lot of litigating firms, they're maybe the owner or the partner of the firm is a litigator, and it's kind of small. Maybe they specialize in TBI or birth or whatever. And most of them get their cases through referral, right? Right. What made you take the decision many years back to go heavy into TV and to originate your own cases as opposed to just doing the referral, off a reputation? What was that moment? Did you just see the writing on the wall, like, hey, I got to build a brand?
Well, we had Norton Fricky here in Denver, for years. He was one of the first people that started advertising in 1978 after the Bates decision. Him and the other law firm was Sarney Trattler and Wakus. And I saw how successful they were. But, the problem with them is with those kinds of firms at that point in time was, they didn't have the lawyers doing the work. And, therefore, I don't, they were just running, Fricky, at that point in time, at maybe 4 or 5 lawyers. They didn't have that. You take a look at Morris Bart in New Orleans and take a look at his model. And, I think that, I hate to say I copy everything he does, but I do. And, he had a small number of lawyers. Now he's got 150 lawyers. Why do and you're getting more on the cases with lawyers. And you're getting more money. They're able to litigate them. You're able to try them. You're able to develop people in your firm that can try these cases and win them. And that's, I think that's one of the things that Morgan have done a great job of, is getting, some of their more experienced lawyers training their younger lawyers so they can go in there and try these cases. They've spared, that's a long, involved process of bringing up these guys and teaching them how to try these cases. It's a lost art. And Morgan & Morgan has done a good job at doing that, so that they file suit on every case. They go in there and they try a lot of cases. And, therefore they get top dollar.
Yeah, and I see that. I agree with you. And Morris and they run good practices. One of the things too is you're talking about big brands, right? And I think Hennessy just did a study where you were like number 2 or number 3 on the list. Frank Azar right there. So now you got this different scenario where you got everybody bidding on your name. You got people like actually like. How do you tackle that versus the benefit of having the brand, because clearly Google wants people to bid on your name because you got to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah.
funny. We've gotten really down to the nitty gritty on really interrogating these people, how they got to us. And, you know, I saw this when I first started practicing law because I saw the law firms that existed back then in Colorado. They were these churner and burners, and they'd sit there and get in bed with the chiropractors and run up a big bill. And then the chiropractor would send them cases and they'd send cases back to the chiropractor and, that whole game. And, in the end, they were burning people so bad that, nobody would go, they didn't get any return clients. So I said at that point in time, when I started advertising, I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sit there and churn and burn. I'm going to sit there and get these people as much money as I can. If a case doesn't work out, I'm going to write it off. I'm not, if I'm not going to try to get the costs, I'm not going to slap liens. I'm not going to do any of this stuff. And consequently, because of that, most of the cases I get are somebody's friend or relative that we represented or one of their friends. I'd say it used to be about, 40, 50% of my practice. Now it's about 80. It used to be
Wow.
in the old days, people would see me on TV and they'd call right away. That's not how it works anymore. Every time somebody's calling us, it's because they know my name. It's a branding thing. And it's not, they may go look for me on Google where these guys are buying my name and accidentally may call one of these guys. And I talked to you about that. I've got
Mhm.
some ongoing litigation with that. But, and I don't want to talk about that. But they are sitting there hoping that somebody confuses them with you and they get the case. Well, halfway through, a lot of these people realize it's not Frank Azar and they fire the guys.